In this lesson, what we're going to look at is we're going to look at alignment and proximity. So let's start with this first meme that we have here. Pretty common meme that we've seen probably before, and we can see that it's having some issues with some legibility of the text. So what we talked about last week is we talked about contrast. So you can see by simply adding a black box behind, I've suddenly been able to improve the contrast. But we can also use alignment to make this look a little bit easier to read. So what we want to do is go with the text box. And the first thing we want to do is take away, instead of it being center text, which makes it kind of zig in and out, we're going to left align it. The next thing we want to do is we want to hold down the shift key and then select the black box, because now what I want to do is I want to vertically and horizontally center this text. To do this, once I've selected that, I'll go to the arrange option. Here I'll go down to the line and I'll do center, and you'll see it moves it over to the center of the box. And then next I'll do middle. And what that has done is that it's now aligned this text box with the image. And you can see how much easier it is to read. Now of course there's some other things that we could have done, like maybe cut down on the text. But with a very simple change, you can see how we went from this to this by using the contrast, alignment, and proximity. So let's look at another example. So in this example, we have this large picture of the elephants, and we have the text, and we can see the picture, but we can't really read the text. So a couple things we want to do here. The first thing we want to do is select on the image. And this is very important whenever you're resizing images. You always want to click and hold the shift key and click on one of the corners and drag it up or down. If you do it without holding the shift key, the picture may get skewed or disproportional. So like you see how that looks a little scrunched up? But instead, if we hold the shift key and do it, we see it moves it in proportion. So what we want to do first is we want to resize this image. And next we want to take the text, and we're going to make the text a little bit more narrow. It's at a 36 point. We always want to be above 20 points if at all possible. So we'll scale this down, and 24 looks about right. And then what we can do is we can align the picture to the text. Now we can try to eyeball it, and with PowerPoint often you'll see there's a faint line, and you'll see that it's trying to do the alignment for us. If we weren't going to use that, we could click on this, use the shift key again so we have both selected, go back to our arrange, and do align top. And you'll see that it now has everything in alignment. Now, one of the things to be mindful of is that it may look a little bit off when you're doing a text box in a picture, because the text box, as you can see, is a little bit above the text. So sometimes what you need to do is move it down a little bit so that it looks like it may be in a straight line going across the top of the text. But you see that's a lot easier to read. Let's look at another example. Now in this example, this animal is looking kind of off to the right. So yes, we could put the text over here, but just one of my design preferences is I don't like the images looking out because it looks a little bit off to me. So in this case, since the animal is looking a little bit off to the right, I would left align this one. And then I would do what we just did, but do it in reverse and make the alignment so that it is the picture's on the left hand side and the text is on the right. And again, we can select, arrange, and top to make sure they're in alignment. So another example is, let's say we had these two images and we had this text. So another thing that we can do is we can move this text over here. We take our images and we place the two images. So we can eyeball it or we can left align to make sure they're in alignment. Okay, so now that we have these in alignment, the next thing we want to do is we want to center this text in the middle of these two images. So an easy way to do that is to right click and then group the images together. So now we see that we have made these images considered one image. So then once we position it where we want on the slide, and then we select the second object, if we do center, we can see that it will center it within the slide, and that's not what we want. What we actually want to do is we want to go to middle, And now we see that it's in the middle, and then we can move it a little bit for our proximity. Move it to the left. And now we see that we can position the slide like so. So these are a couple of ways that you can use the alignment and proximity tools within PowerPoint to align your pictures and your text to make it easier to read and understand for a learner. In your activity, you're going to have an opportunity to apply these principles. And I encourage you to play around with the different alignment options to think about what is the most effective way to present your information.